welcome back to the Hushlife podcast, guys. We've been saying it for years, but I think we're actually doing it now. We're trying to stay more consistent on this thing. We've been doing a podcast every week for the last few weeks, and so the plan is to continue doing that. Just getting different groups of people on here. If it's a podcast we do amongst the group, the Hush group, great. If not, we would love to hear some feedback from you guys as well. What are some topics you want us to talk about? Maybe some special guests you want us to have on, anything like that. Your guys' feedback will kind of help us steer this thing down the path. So if you guys have any of that, leave them in the comments down below, and we'll definitely take a look at it. But I just want to introduce a couple good guys right now that I'm super excited to actually sit down and talk to. We are right now located in a shop here in my hometown of Pocatello, Idaho, and we are at the shop known as Archery Idaho. And to my right, your left, would be Patric. I'm going to try this. Kosmiski? Kosmiski. Dang it.
Close.
And we've got Jesse Smith. I can nail that one. I'm just going to kind of let these guys dive in and tell you their background, their story, how they got to where we're at right now, and then we'll go from there. So, Patric, tell us a little bit about yourself. And Patric is the owner of both Archery Idaho Pocatello and Archery Idaho Falls, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I grew up in South Dakota. My wife and I worked in the oil fields. We had trucks. Then she got out, and I sent her to Rapid City, South Dakota, which is about 100 miles from my hometown, and she went to work for Camping World. And then we went from there I went to work for them. We went to Texas. She took a finance position. They put her in Idaho Falls. And while I was here, I met the former owner of Archery Idaho and his son-in-law, and became friends, stayed in touch. Then we had to move because Camping World moves you all the time. So moved her back to South Dakota where we were at. And I stayed in touch. And then, unfortunately, Tom's son-in-law and his daughter got a divorce, and he was running this shop. And he called me and said, "Hey, I'm out. I think Tom's going to want to sell or close the store." And here's the cool thing, Pocatello, the store was doing okay, but nobody knew we were here. You know, they did have one on pole line for a few years when Thomas was in college.
Yep.
But anyway, everybody's like, "Oh no, it's going to close," because there's never, and you guys have even said it to me, there hasn't been a consistent shop here for years. So I called Tom. I said, "Hey, you want to sell the store? Or are you going to close it?" He's like, "You'd move back to Idaho to own an archery shop?" I said, "I'll be there tomorrow." And we started the conversation. Everything was going great. And then 30 days later, he called me and said he wanted to retire and sell them both, which the IF store, because D. Wild owned it, it's just been there for 30, at that time, 28, 29 years. Now we're going on our 33rd year. So it's just okay, shift gears, and go about it. And my wife, being as great as she is, she says, "If you want to do it, we're doing it." Packed up, moved here, and here we are 3 years later. Probably the number one best thing, I had Brian Loveland come back to work for us. He was with Lancaster at the time and had just moved back. And then the former manager here, he quit to move on to bigger and better things. Brian and I were standing in the shop, and I'm like, "Who should we get?" And Brian's like, "Jesse Smith." And I'm like, "Oh, yes." And then here it is. And are we 2 years in?
2 years, it's August.
Yeah.
So before, meeting the previous owners and coming in here, you spent some time in here. What was your background into archery?
So my younger brother has been a bow hunter for years, and I was just a hunter. I was more of a rifle hunter. I didn't really, but my brother every year would be like, he's like, "Patric, you would love archery. You're that kind of guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." Came home, he was getting ready. He's like, "Just shoot my bow." So he gave me a quick tutorial. That was 17 years ago. First arrow went right where I was aiming, and just like anything, the hook was set. Then became a sponge and everything I could. And then I was really fortunate where we live in South Dakota, Black Hills Archery's there. Al Kraus, he's been around for almost 30 years. And him and I are close to the same age, but he's a mentor. He's like, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for him. He let me just hang out at the shop. And then he's like, "Hey, could you help customers? Hey, you want to learn how to work on bows and tune bows?" So he just took me under his wing. And it never paid me. and I never paid for anything. So it was one of the best relations I've ever had in this entire industry, is where I worked hard for him, and he in turn, just helped me with whether it was gear or, helping me shoot better, whatever. Like, he was just really a great mentor. But other than that, before that, like, I've been in the trucking business forever. Just love the outdoors, but I was a gun guy.
I would assume growing up in South Dakota, I've spent a fair amount of time in South Dakota, and I've said this, if it wasn't for the wind and the pretty harsh winters, I think South Dakota is a pretty remarkable place to live, just because of the opportunity for recreating in the outdoors. And if you're just looking at hunting specifically, I mean, we go and do a turkey hunt out there every year, but man, South Dakota has elk in it, right? I mean, it's tough to get a tag, but they're there.
Well, that herd's growing. Non-residents, impossible. Residents for like a Custer State Park tag, which is where you're going to shoot the big bulls, because that's where they're at. My brother's been putting in for 18 years. Hasn't drawn. And it'll probably be 22, 23 before he draws. It just is what it is.
So not much different than, say, somebody in Utah waiting to draw a tag down there.
It's super. Well, and that's the thing, super similar, because your guys' population in Utah is so great. There's more hunters putting in.
Yeah.
And then the elk herd in South Dakota is pretty close to what the harvest here is in Idaho. Mm-hmm. So the herd is growing. Like, they're healthy. The numbers every year are getting better. It's just if they did a normal hunt, like they do a mule deer hunt or a whitetail hunt, like we would level the herd in the first year. So they're like South Dakota Game Fish Park. They're doing a great job. It just sucks because it's years. Like, it's not. Hey, every third year, fourth year, you got to stay with it, buy your preference point, and just stay with it.
But outside of elk, you got some phenomenal whitetail hunting, some phenomenal mule deer hunting.
Yes.
You've got predators such as coyotes, pronghorn, and then birds like turkeys, fantastic. Upland game is fantastic. Like, I don't think I'd ever be able to talk my beautiful wife into moving there, but for the opportunity, and if you're living in South Dakota, I apologize for exposing this.
Yeah,
but it's a pretty fantastic place.
You're going to edit this all out.
There's people home right now just cussing me because they live in South Dakota and they're trying to keep it under the radar.
But it is, and I'm guilty of it too. Like, I tell people all the time, like, if you want to go on a really good hunt, if you were to draw a non-resident whitetail tag, you got from September 1st on private to January 1st. So you can go get them in velvet. You can catch them in the rut. It's just such a great deal. But if you go late in the year, you can go on a goose hunt while you're there. Like, there's so much to do
you
for
can get
an
a lot
outdoorsman.
Of bang for your buck,
100%.
Especially like on an out-of-state trip.
Oh, buddy. Like, where I'm from, Bennett County, Martin, South Dakota is my hometown. La Creek Wildlife Refuge is there. It's 15,000 acres. And, we're on the edge of the flyway. So, like, our duck hunting, and hardly anybody at home does it anymore. When I was a kid, yes, but, like, it's one of those things. Everybody that goes duck hunting here would go there and they would just be like, you got to be kidding me. Like, just name this, every species you can think of, and just, like, La Creek does a really good job. It's a wetland. Our goose, like giant Canadians, they don't go south. They stay because it doesn't get cold enough where we're at.
Yeah.
So you can shoot a 20-plus pound goose. Like, it's amazing.
It's pretty unheard of.
It really is, and everybody will be like, "Oh, I have pictures. My little brother, his first goose, he's holding it. Dad is actually holding it, and we're both holding the wing. It's a giant, and that happens like every year. It's just it's a really neat place to have grown up."
Sorry, all you South Dakotians out there. We'll move on.
Yes,
because we're exposing it.
It's really cold and windy. Oh my God!
You purchased the shop. I would say this from my experiences going into any shop is, some things that I've noticed you guys have done a fantastic job at, and anytime I walk into a shop, I'll notice this is just the amount of stuff you have here is extraordinary. You go into a lot of archery shops and it will be, maybe they'll have a few bows, some arrows, but it's really pretty limited just because I think of how a shop is ran. And maybe you can dive into this more if you want, but you guys have how many different brands of bows here?
Almost all of them.
Yeah. And
here in the Pocatello store especially, because we have some competition up north, and here in Pocatello we're just far enough away. So like we have Prime, we have Elite, PSC, Matthews, Hoyt. We had Bowtech. We just let them go to make room for PSC because like Jesse is a PSC guy.
Yeah. That's the only fault I've been able to see with him so far is.
Well, I tell you what,
you got these beautiful Hoyts up above my head.
Absolutely beautiful, especially the new Burboun one. But
say, just give me one.
Yeah, I know a guy.
Yeah, yeah. We get into this, and it's one of those things like if somebody would just send me something.
Yeah, I'd be so all about them.
I'd be so happy.
Other than PSC, because early on I found that was just a bow that fit me. Worked for me.
That's a giant topic that I want to get into. But that's a topic I'm going to bring up later. Is just about, and it's something we get asked all the time. I'm sure you guys do. But like, what bow is best for a new beginner? And we'll jump into that later. I want to introduce you. Sure. But so you guys have just a plethora of goods here that somebody can come in, purchase a bow. They can get the whole setup if they come in here.
Right.
But also, man, I see this wall of crispy boots here. You guys got a whole wall of like Phelps game calls. You offer a lot more than just archery specific things, and I think that's a huge thing. But in my opinion, and my history of going through different shops is, you can have all that, but really, and what I've seen is what makes a shop is obviously the ownership, but it's the people you have working for you.
100%, 100%. Like my wife and I, we didn't take it lightly when we bought the shop, and like literally by just luck, Brian Loveland had moved back to Idaho, and I use him as an example all the time. And then I use Jesse as like, they have a passion for archery. They're not just like, it's not just an hourly job for them. My wife and I, we try to pay the most competitive wage, so they're not always looking like, well, I can go here and make $1 more. They love what they do, but like Brian, he spent 5 years at Lancaster in archery shop years, like equated to dog years. His 5 years there is like 15 anywhere else, just because of the volume of business they do.
So big.
He's my dictionary.
100%.
I call Brian. I mean, I'm starting to learn. He's been in the shop business longer than me. So when it comes to small details on product, like someone will ask me a question, I'm like, hold on, Brian. And it's just like he's not reading it. He's asking him a question, and he's just telling you what he knows. And it's like, I can just put this phone on speaker, and the customer's like, okay,
got it.
And then I just logged it in. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah,
so that brings us to the next introduction here. This is Mr. Jesse Smith. So same with Patric. Give us kind of a brief rundown of your past, and I know you've been big in the archery world of obviously working here and running this shop, but also competing as an archer as well, right?
Yeah, and we're, on the local level, that part we'll get to. On the local level, I've been really big at that, sneaking in the national level a little bit here and there, but just haven't had the time or the money to go do it, which, I don't know, maybe one day we're getting there. But, no, I started 20 years ago, 2004 or 5, I think. I got frustrated in the rifle season and thought, you know what? I'm going to look into bows. So I went down and Archery Idaho in Idaho Falls was holding the arch back then. You had to go take Archery Ed. Took my Archery Ed class at the shop up there. That all got done. I walked downstairs, basically picked out a bow way back then. And when I took the bow out, back then I don't think I had the understanding that archery shops worked on your stuff. It was just kind of a common sense. I looked at a bow and you looked at other people's stuff, called and asked questions, but I didn't really think that you had a tech work on your bow, and even if they did, I think I would have quickly, how do you do that one, do it myself. I found joy in just bolting my own sight on. Sometimes when people come in, it blows me away how many people don't find joy in just going and bolting their own sight on their bow,
Yep.
But that's how I was back then, and so that's how I got into it. Started archery, and then I was in the shop a lot. And I think that same year I bought a hunt bow. I went upstairs, and here's all these guys, these local legends, Ryan Pimentel and Lyle Hall and Phil, all these guys that I walked in. I'm like, oh, they're shooting target bows, and I'm watching them shoot, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Like those guys that's pretty.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. I want to do that. I want to do that. So it didn't take me very long, and I bought my first used target bow and started going with those guys. And those guys they'd hit you with a little here and there. Wasn't no lessons involved, but they'd see something, help you out, and away we went. And in the meantime, I started working part-time for Tom back then. I was around the shop enough. He needed other people to help, so he'd go out and go hunt and do his thing. And I loved being in the shop, the atmosphere, working on bows, the people. Like, I almost didn't care if I gave up a weekend of hunting to hang out in the bow shop and work on bows and shoot the shit with people about archery in the archery shop. And so I was doing that a lot. Probably, I think we did 2.5, 3 years, something like that, of doing that. And then we had kind of a falling out. We had a couple good friends that wanted to start a new shop in town for various reasons, and they came to me because they seen in the shop, how much I liked the shop and how much attention I was getting in the shop down there. And they came to me and they want to start a new shop. They said, "Hey, we want to start a new shop in town, and we want you to manage it." Let's do it. I'm down. Let's go. I didn't think what it would do. I didn't know the industry well enough to would even support another shop. I didn't know. Someone told me they'd pay me this amount to run an archery shop, and they were going to build it, and they didn't need to make money. They just wanted to own a shop. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And we did. I had another job at the time. I quit that job, and we were getting a building ready to go, getting all set up. And then pretty quick, like cold feet or common sense, probably a good idea that they didn't, knowing now what I didn't know then. And they come to me one day like, "Hey, I don't think we're going to do this. We've added it all up, and maybe it's not a good time for it." I'm like, "Okay, well, crap. What am I going to do? I just quit my job." And one of them owned a fab shop, and he said, "You want to weld?" And I'm like, "I ain't got a choice." So I spent the next decade welding, but traveling all over and doing all that. But I never quit archery. Like, archery was huge for me, and I just kept picking away at the competing and kept using the range down there for indoors. And a lot of guys back then knew that I'd went through even a divorce back then, so I had a lot of time, and I just spent a lot of hours shooting arrows in the range, and that's kind of what got me into the competing part. But hunting was still my number one love. Like I told you, like once before, if I didn't hunt, I don't know if I would compete. The hunting part of it gives me drive to be a better archer, and competing competing is a way to make myself better when it's primarily for hunting. It'd be hard. It might be hard to compete if I didn't hunt. I don't know.
It's just the way you view it, right? Like, you competing is just a good way to hone your skills so that when fall comes around, you're
and if you have a competition bone in your body and you kind of figure it out and you're halfway good at it, you go at it. But
you're a little more than halfway good at it.
So like 52%.
Yeah, like so 98.
So that kind of went on, and time passes on. I found another shop that supported me down in Preston for a few years, and I ended up building my own bow shop in my basement. And I was tuning a lot of bows in my basement. Guys learned where I was. I have a full shop down there, set up tune. I booked schedule, evenings, it got busy down there. So I just kept doing it, kept going on at it. Time goes by. I don't spend as much time in the shop because obviously, the previous shop owner, I left him to start another shop. He wasn't really thrilled with you. No, so I wasn't working there anymore. The deals went away, and but so we carry on. We go forward, and then one day I hear that I never met Patric when he was for the few years in town hanging out in the shop, because I didn't go to the shop. I felt whether I was blackballed or not, I wasn't, but I just didn't go to the shop. Never met Patric. A few years goes by, and all of a sudden I hear that Tom showed the shop, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go down there and clear the air right now. And I happened to walk in that day, and he's sitting there with Tanya, and I went in and introduced myself. Don't know what you heard. This is the deal. If you feel like I owe you a dime, I'll pay you right now. Yeah. And he's like, nope, we're just gonna start on a clean slate. And
that wasn't a 5-minute conversation either. We sat and BS'd for probably an hour and a half. Yeah. And when he left, I told Tanya, I said, that's a good dude.
Yeah.
Like, it was just one of those deals. We've been friends probably from that day. So it's kind of funny that, we had the manager that left, he kind of hinted about it, And Jesse mentioned it even way back then, like the very first year. And he's like, hey, don't forget about me if you ever need somebody. And I tucked it away because he was working at our friend's fab shop, doing very well. Like I was like, okay, how am I
going? Like I was at the top of the, pretty close to the top of the ladder in a fab shop. Yeah. So the fact that Patric's got me here is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'd say.
I had to. There was a.
You get in trouble.
Yeah, my wife is like, okay. She said, is he going to be able to pay for himself? And I said, I guarantee you. And in the first year, he doubled the revenue that we make out of this shop. So I was like, are we good? She's like, I like him better than I like you. And I'm like, well, that's we're married.
That's my whole, like, kind of validates my point is, you know, you go to some shops and not talking bad about any of the previous shops that were here, even like years ago when I got into archery when I was like 8 years old. You guys weren't around that time, obviously. This is 30 plus years ago. There was a shop that used to be not too far from here, like over kind of like where the school district building is now, right down here, the Hostess Factory. It was called Kent's, and that's a place I bought my first bow, and I remember actually going in there. My dad was big into archery. We had just moved to Idaho, and he had bought a bow, and he was shooting. They had a little indoor place like here. You could shoot like 20, 30 yards, and that back then Easton was making bows, I believe, and I think it was called a Game Getter Junior or something. Anyway, my dad made me put the bow on layaway. I purchased the bow, and every week I would go in there to shoot. And the guy that owned it was nice enough that I would pay him $5 a week until it was paid off. But he would allow me to shoot it because $5 is what I think the range fee might have been back then.
Right.
Anyway, like it was a great shop, but out of all the history I have of going into shops, you could have the right ownership, you can have all the right brands and equipment in here, but for me, like, going into a shop and talking to a tech or the guy that runs the shop and knowing that he knows way more about archery to me than I do, is what's going to bring me back.
You know, that it's nice when people notice that, but like what's cool about our whole team is if we don't know, we will find out.
Yeah.
Like Jesse saying, hold on, let me call Brian.
I'm not proud enough to where if I don't know something, I'm going to find out from someone that does, and I'm not too proud to.
And we just kind of, that's how we talk to each other. Like it's just
never stop learning.
Yeah. We jump in because like everybody that we know in this industry, and you know, it's a small community. The archery industry is really small. You like all those friendships and the hunts you go on, and like Al Kraus being my mentor. If I don't know, that's who I call. If he doesn't know, he's like, hold on, let me call somebody.
Yeah.
And then, 20 minutes later, you get a text, hey, this is what you need to do. Or there might be an attachment of the video because everything's on YouTube, so you can jump on and find it.
It's a new search engine now.
But it's really nice to have that tight-knit community. So like it is cool. Like I'm like you. When I'm traveling, I go any shop that's close by. I'll always Google search wherever we're going and find a shop. I take everything off Archery Idaho and I just go in as Patric,
a customer.
the fat archer. Just go in and hang out, talk archery.
Well, that's so huge because we kind of have a saying at Hush. It's kind of a theory that the most important thing I think going out into the field is to be 100% confident in yourself, but also be 100% confident in your equipment. Because there's nothing worse when you're out in the field and you start second-guessing maybe your abilities or you start second-guessing your equipment.
Right.
And, for example, like we were on an archery elk or deer hunt a few years ago, and my buddy was with me, and, dude, he was dialed. He's a dialed archer, and he shot and missed this buck like 6 times. And by the third arrow, he told me afterwards, he's like, dude, I don't know what I was believing in or not believing. And what had happened is somehow his rangefinder had got like clicked off the angle compensating mode.
Sure.
And so it was giving him the actual
So everything
reading.
was good.
Yeah.
But
in his head, he was like, do I believe my equipment or do I just go back to like what I know?
Yeah.
Long story short, when I walk out of somewhere, if it's setting up a rifle or setting up, especially a bow, because it's a little more in detail setting up a bow, is I want to know that bow is going to perform exactly how I need it to.
Yeah.
And then that gives me confidence in myself as well. And the fact that if you guys don't know, you find out is huge, because I think there is a lot of people in the industry that would be like, have that pride and be like, well, I don't know, but I'm going to fake it.
No.
A lot of what we do here it's not something that someone told me this is how you do it. This is how it's supposed to be. this is years of us, shooting, competing, hunting, and having those fails, having things, and figuring out what does and what doesn't work ourselves. And then that's what I do to you. I didn't set your bow up any different than mine. I give yours more attention than mine. All our customers get more attention to my bow because it's the last one to get out the door and hurry and go. But I set yours up no different. I like to set mine up.
Yep.
And it's just what we've found over the years that just works and simple but works. It's not nothing too crazy.
Yep.
But everything we do is not because someone told me that's how it's supposed to be. What we do is because we've learned it. We've found out, and that's what
real life experience.
What works. And things trickle down, like the wilds here in Pocatello. They're anything that I started with when I started into archery, because D owned that shop, and Ryan and all those guys. Everything they knew came from the wilds. From D and Rio, and I didn't know them guys back then, but everything they did was because of those guys, and that's the initial setup from the way I do things. There's still things today that you can look at those guys as bows, and it's going to be very similar.
That's a crazy story. So the one I told you about, this archery shop that was here when I was a kid, there was also D's shop. If you guys don't know at home, D Wild is a super famous archer. I'd say his son's even more so.
Yeah.
But D Wild had a shop in town. And my dad, this is like a throwback I want to bring up. Like, everyone always asks, like, how we got started in, like, YouTube and, like, entrepreneurship and all that. My dad kind of showed us the way when we were kids, and he had a business with D Wild back in the day. This is going to really date me. But he had a business with D that you remember, the toll-free numbers that you could call?
Yeah.
And so he had this business where D would give out archery tips like once a week.
Really?
So you could call this 1-900 number. I can't remember what it was, but you'd call this 1-900 number.
I got in trouble for calling those when I was a young person.
Might have been calling the little different ones, but you could call this number and D would have like his tip of the week. And so my dad had set up this whole business with D, and like D would, like, my dad would go and record D's like tip of the week, and so you could call him. Anyway, that's kind of where I got my entrepreneurship from, was my dad back in the day. But yeah, so D Wild had a big shop back in town, and then his sons, Rio and Logan went on. I think for sure Rio went on and shoot in the Olympics multiple times.
Not the Olympics. USAT, USA Archery, World Archery. Yep. They're working on
Olympics 2024.
Olympics hopefully coming, and I think
It'll be coming back though, right? Because it used to be in the Olympics.
Yeah, I think it was.
Gosh, I don't. Yeah,
but it's just Olympic recurve.
Yeah, Olympic recurve's been in it all along. Recurve has always been there, but it's getting
compound.
It's getting compounded. Yeah, and there's been a big issue with getting compounded, because USA would be such a strong, overwhelmingly strong for a head, but the European countries are getting on the same level, and I take this back if I'm wrong, but I bet that has a lot to do with Rio. Some of it to do with Rio being in Korea right now, helping that team out. If he's can help the Korean teams get up to level, and that's going to help that decision with, I believe, bring compound in.
That you mentioned Logan. He came in the shop, and we sat down and we had I don't know. Most conversations with me are 1 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
How much time do you got?
Yeah.
But it was amazing. He doesn't shoot competitively anymore, but his tech knowledge is still like spot on.
Oh yeah.
Like, so you get to that level, and those are the friends that we like to have as an archery shop, and when we're tuning bows, because the one thing that I notice in some shops, if you bring anything that wasn't made in 2010 or newer, they don't want to work on it, or they can't, which is fine. But like we like, if somebody brings it in and that's all they got, and like their financial situation, we don't know, but we're going to try to fix it. We're going to, like, if it's not safe, we're going to say, like, literally those old wood fiberglass laminated limbs on the Polar 2 and any of the old, like, that's not a safe bow to shoot. And then I tell them, because if they were trying to do it because their grandfather or great had killed, I'm like, if you want to pay homage, let's clean it up, make it beautiful, and then you put a shadow box on the wall, you hang it up, little picture of your grandfather or whoever, and treat it that way. But a lot of places I've been in, I've watched them shun somebody for coming in with something that isn't new.
Yeah.
And like, those bows were getting it done for years.
Well, I think not only are you guys in the business of obviously selling bows and arrows and all the things in between, but you're really in the business of promoting the sport of archery, right?
We try.
Because the better the archery does, and here's an interesting question we got. So I asked you guys at home on Instagram here today earlier if there's any questions that they would want answered, and we actually talked about this Saturday when I came in and bought a membership to the local archery club. This question comes from a guy named Dallin Wadups. Wadups. You guys know him.
We know Dallin.
So maybe this is angled towards this. But his question is, biggest thing local clubs can do to benefit the local archery shops and vice versa. And this is kind of something we talked about earlier.
Right. Yeah. It takes a healthy club will help shop grow, and a healthy shop will help the club grow. If they work together, it's only good. You're gonna grow archery with the both of you. And a shop can only do so much, a club can only do so much. But if a club is doing what it needs to do, a club is out there putting it out there, making sure that people want to be in that club, that they have the range they want to shoot. They're doing the shoots, the banquets, the whatever they need to do, and keeping their targets in good shape, and just keeping the club as a club. More people come to the club and more people come to the shop, and it just keeps going. We've seen it tenfold in Idaho Falls in the last few years with South Fork Archers. Yeah. South Fork Archers is blowing up, and you can just see it in the shop down there.
Blackfoot's doing the same thing
made some big moves this year, and they've been. Yeah, Blackfoot's going places. Pocatello's trying there's constant talk in Pocatello. They're working. We're going to work with them.
Yeah, because again, they're a club to hopefully get more members every year to raise more money to make it a better club. Yep. And then you guys are an archery shop to sell archery gear, bows and arrows to people that are into it. But again, you guys at the end of the day, you're really promoting the sport of archery.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody comes in here and buys a bow. A lot of your city propers don't allow shooting a bow in city limits.
My neighborhood's different. So all you neighbors that are watching, we're good. We're good.
Completely different. Right? He annexed himself in. There's a special law there.
I got a big shop I shoot sometimes.
But a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
So they instantly ask us where they can go shoot. Especially if with the population influx that's happened since we moved here. Pocatello's grown, Twin's grown, they're growing, so some people don't know. And then there's still a lot of people here since I've been here that didn't know Pocatello Field Archers is just down the road, and it's literally one of the nicest facilities I've ever been in for your local archery club to build to have a building like that to shoot indoors and then the walkthrough course. I recommend everybody have a membership there, have a membership at Blackfoot, South Fork, Upper Snake River, Bowman. There's 4 great clubs down this corridor that you can go shoot at any given time and hone. Then they're all different.
Yeah.
Blackfoot's on the river bottom and you're nice target. They do a good job. Pocatello has the hills that you can climb through on their walkthrough course. You can shoot 40 yards indoors while you're trying to get tuned, and then 60 on the flat range and 100 on the down. There's just a ton to do. Mm-hmm. And the only way those clubs survive is by, people knowing they're there and selling memberships and doing the banquets. And we do our part by anybody that walks in and asks, we're no, you want a membership at this one, you want a membership here. If you're spending a lot of time up north, you want one at Upper Snake River, Bowman. And we love all the clubs. When they ask for donations, it gets tough. My wife gets mad because she's we're not in the business to give stuff away. I said, we're not. Because this benefits us just as much as the club. Because the more people that go to the clubs, then they want more gear. They shoot with us. They shoot next to us. They watch, our target guys go out and clean a course, and they're like, I want to do that. These young kids are getting to be amazing archers.
Oh, yeah, we've created ourselves problems.
You're not going to be winning much longer.
Kate, you guys
just building
that worked here. My son,
yourself.
My son's 21. Caden's 21.
Yeah.
We got Lucas. You met Lucas, 17.
CJ Day.
That's my competition now.
Yeah.
Now we got a slew of girls coming up, and all a lot of girls in that 16 to 14-year-old range are going to own
Yeah,
you know,
they're on another level.
What's coming is pretty cool.
It is. And it's nice because like we make sure we help them as much as we can. Like all the S3DA kids that are in these local clubs, if they show up at the shop and want to shoot, I never charge them.
Yeah.
I don't they need to be in here. I've sent some of the gals from IF that they're trying to get to the next level, and they're asking Brian and I'm like, you know what? I said, I can help you, but I'm not the shooter that Jesse is. It's well worth your trip down to Pocatello. Hang out with him. He's going to see some things. He's going to show you some things. He's going to, work on how you concentrate. Like he helped me
6 months later, I got someone else I can't beat.
Yeah.
That's what's been happening.
Which is so awesome. These kids are killers.
I think it's so important, and we've always said this. The way I view hunting, anyways, is like I try to think back to when I was a kid, and I think I hunted just because it was so important to my dad, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if hunting was actually necessarily a cool thing to do. And I definitely would say that about the next generation, like even people that are like Logan's age, was hunting ever cool? I don't know. But what social media has done, I think, a very good job of is to make hunting cool again.
Yeah.
So there's other young kids out there that younger kids can see and follow and look up to. And I think especially in the archery world, when you guys help those young kids out, and, I know Caden very well, and he's a super good archer. There's kids in town that look up to Caden and be like, hey, I want to be an archer like Caden is.
Yep, exactly.
And going back to your question, Dallin, I think the way I would view it is, as an archery shop and as an archery club, they should be looking at making opportunities for the other guy, right?
Right.
The more people or young kids that fall in love with archery and think it's cool, the more bows they're going to come and sell. You guys are going to sell. They're going to come by. And the more people that come buy bows are going to be looking for opportunity and places to go shoot. And they're going to be looking to become members of a local club.
I would like to see the archery clubs start doing their own youth programs, whether it be JOAD or S3DA. And we would love to help out. Everybody's been asking us when's Archery Idaho going to have their own S3DA program. And I've been saying it for the last year. As soon as I have enough quality coaches, because I don't want to half-ass it. I don't want to just, hey, we'll have it, because I want these kids to come in, get really good instruction, be able to practice. I got to have guys that can travel, because S3DA is one of those deals where you get a good, the national shoot was just this weekend in Montana. So I want to do it right, because I don't want to gyp the kids.
Yeah.
I don't it's not fair to them, because they are the ones that are going to put in all this work. And then if there's nobody there to help them move to the next level or to travel or to get going. So we want to do it right. But the clubs could help out by having that, getting parents. And then I'm one of those guys, I donate a lot of time just because I feel it's necessary. It's hard for me to ask my guys hey, I know you just worked 10 hours, but I need you for three more.
Yeah.
So we can go help the youth. But eventually, Jesse's daughter shoots an S3DA. So he's in. Brian said, his daughter's only 3, and he's as soon as has that interest and she wants to, he knows he's going to be a part of it. So those are down the road. But then I have some retired guys that have mentioned. So we might have one by the end of this year. We really want one, because I just love that's the biggest soft spot for me, is when kids come in and we set up their bow, and then they go upstairs and shoot, and they come down with a target that's got holes all over it, but most of them are in the middle, and you can see the pride. Look what I did, and I'm stoked for them. And then every time they come in, all of a sudden it gets better and better and better. And it's one of those sports. I played high school sports, went to college to play sports. It didn't work out. College was 9 years of my life.
So you're a doctor?
Not a doctor, by the way.
We got a doctor.
I took some biology classes, but they weren't offered. Anyway, but what I say about the archery, you might not make the volleyball team or the basketball team or soccer or baseball or football or whatever, but you can shoot a bow.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about archery is every body type, every strength, we can set you up so you can shoot. And if you have drive to practice and to get better, you can be one of the best archers around. Like,
For
it's just,
sure.
it's how archery is. Like, the limiting factor isn't how much you can bench or how fast you can run. It's just how much dedication you
How
have.
much
So
time you spend doing
that you
it.
spend.
Some
So-
are natural and some got to work harder.
That's an interesting theory, because I think for me, like, I played sports growing up, and then, you know, when I got into high school, I kind of like just did my own. I was a big snowboarder. I chased that dream for a while and kind of quit doing sports. But for me, thinking back and now having kids of that age that are playing sports, you know, I think a lot of dads look at their kids or their sons and be like, you're going to go play college ball somewhere. But for me, I think sports are so important for kids. It's because it's such a good way to build up like work ethic.
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%. Like, work ethic is important, but also confidence is so big.
Yeah.
When a kid can see himself go from like point A to point B and improve like over a season, whatever sport that might be, or even hobby, like maybe they're into music, playing the piano or whatever.
It's funny you say that though, because like Jesse and Brian and Lucas and Tim, we deal with it there'll be a kid come in, you can tell they're frustrated or something's not right, and we spend just a little time with them on the range and see the one thing that they're not quite doing. Like, there's no wrong way, but there's definitely a better, consistent way to. And as soon as we get that to them and it clicks with them and their groups just shrink down, like, that's an accomplishment. And then every time they come in, it wants to get better. And like, that's so fun for us.
Yeah, but you know, like you're saying, not, you know, once the kid gets from maybe like little league into like junior high and then progress into high school, you know, they could spend a lot of time playing football, but they might not might not be built for it.
No,
right?
that's what I'm saying. So with archery, you don't have to be 6'5", you know, 250 pounds. Like, you don't. You can be 5'2".
Archery's pretty easy. Like, you know, if a kid comes in the right place and the right person helps them, in about a matter of a half hour, you can have them shooting in here going, holy, this is neat. I can shoot good. The wrong place, the wrong guy, the wrong help. This isn't any fun. This is hard, you know. But archery's actually really simple. It's pretty easy to get really anybody with the right setup shooting their distance that they should be, whether they're 8 years old or 13 or so on. Just how you set them up and where you start them. You can make archery fun in a hurry.
That's very true. It's definitely a sport. Now I'm thinking about it this way. It's a sport built for anybody that's willing just to commit some time to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's your limiting factor on how good you want to be, because like when you talk with a lot of our trad shooters, our recurve guys, like, it's a diminishing skill. They're like, if I don't stay on it, I can't group and shoot as well. I mean, and compound and that is similar, but it's one of those things. If your daily schedule allows you to shoot 10 to 20 arrows a day, you're going to stay pretty sharp.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Like, now, you know, we were talking about this the other day at the shop, because they just had the Rockman games here this weekend, how like the Total Archery Challenge changed how we shoot foam.
Yeah.
And it changed our archery season. Because like before, you'd have a few local like shoots on the weekend. Now we got people traveling across the country to go shoot on a mountain to see how, like, it's a challenge. Like, you guys have shot the Sitka course.
Oh yeah.
Like, it can be brutal, and people are literally loving it.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, going back to what you were talking about, if you didn't hunt, you don't know if you'd necessarily be competing. I remember growing up, you know, we went to, you know, a handful of 3D shoots in the summer, and that's just kind of how we viewed it. I enjoy shooting 3D archery. It's fun, but the reason why is because it's preparing me for what I really love, which is the fall, right?
Yeah.
We went to the Rockman Games this weekend, and it's the first shoot I took my hunting bow to all year. And we got up there, and our buddy Steve that you guys met earlier today, he got there, and I'm like, I'm not even looking for rings today, man. I'm just going to shoot. And he's really liking to compete. And when I told him that I wasn't going to look for rings, because it was finally his time. He's had his hunt bow. I finally got my hunt bow out, so we're on the same level, and he's ready to kick my butt.
It's time to level up. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not even looking for rings today. And he's like, what? So we ended up looking for rings, and he beat me.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had fun, but same thing. I don't know if I think I'd had to look for rings anyway and just shoot at it. But
you can't help yourself.
No. But TAC definitely has expanded that they have like badass 3D shoots now all over the country from coast to coast.
Right, and there's smaller companies doing it, you know, the Mountain Challenge, and like it is. they started it, and there's more companies getting into the space. You know, everybody's trying to get into shape. You know, Cam Haynes, I'll give him a bunch of credit when it comes to, you know, being in shape. Like, he respects elk so much. That's the one thing he loves to hunt. And like, I'm a whitetail hunter, as you guys can tell.
I like it.
I fit that mold pretty well. But it's neat to see all these people coming from all over. Our community as a whole is a bunch of really good people.
Hell yeah.
The only thing I always try to preach to people is, like, we do eat our own.
Yeah.
We do. If you're shooting a recurve, and it's a Ford Chevy rivalry,
100%.
which I'm always like, guys, come on, there's not enough of us. If we were this, like, the fandom and the amount of people like in the NFL that are a fan that go to football games, then I'd be fine. We can hate on each other, but we're too small. Like, we're trying to grow this community and make them better. And you're like, oh, you shoot a recurve, too bad. Or
dude, there's so many levels to that. We've always said that, you know, there's all these cliques just within the hunting community, right? And the hunting community, in comparison to other communities, is super small.
We are, and that's what's funny is, like, you know, everybody in the industry now. You guys have been doing this a long time.
More or less, yeah.
Like, you pick up your phone. Well, let's just call him. You know, we'll scroll down here and I'll call him. That's for everybody. Like, you go, like, some of my best friends as an adult, I met at a Total Archery Challenge.
Yep.
In Terry Peak 7 years ago. And, like, we look forward to seeing each other every year. That's what's cool about our community. That's
awesome.
And we love to shoot. You know, the competition deal, like, hang out with, like, I was, like, shooting foam was just fun.
Yeah.
Just practicing to kill stuff. And then I go shoot with Jesse and his son and all, like, no, this is not, we're not shooting for fun. I'm going to win. You're going to lose.
Well, that's what makes it fun.
For you guys, because I got to change. I'm like, what? Okay, I got to. Okay,
for
can't
you
even
guys.
see the 12 ring.
But before we get off that, back to Dallin real quick. I don't want to leave that out because he does deserve a throw out there. So
for sure.
So the Blackfoot Club, he himself, guys like him, he's a big reason that Blackfoot made a big jump in growth this year. He liked the league that Idaho Falls was doing, and he started that league and ran it with everything he had this year, and he had a great turnout. And that league alone, and they did a competition. There's Chris and Tom, another couple down there, and they'll get together and put on a competition that Blackfoot's never done before. And they had over 50 some shooters come and throw down to compete, and it it turned out big. Everybody made a little money, everybody had fun, and it was a big year for Blackfoot.
That was my first tournament.
Dallin, you had a lot to do with that, so good job, Dallin.
Yeah, Dallin, he did. I mean, he worked hard to do that. Like, it wasn't, you know, just like anything, the club wasn't super receptive to it at first because it's
new.
It's
different,
new. Yeah, and competition and every week. But, like, we tried to help out. So, like, you would $10 entry, and then you'd win $5 per person back. So the club's getting half, you know, and the shooters are getting half. Well, Archery Idaho, we're like, well, we'll give $25 gift cards.
Sweet.
And that made the competition a little bit more fun. And we just tried to add to it.
And I started that. It was, I don't know how many years ago, 10, 12, 15, I don't know what year it was. I started this. We had to find a way to show people that competing was fun, but get everybody out there and you're not always shooting against the best guy.
Yeah.
So we figured out a way to run that league to where everybody gets to come shoot for fun, and then they get grouped up with someone at their skill level. Because there's not who's good and who's bad archery. It's what skill are you at.
Yeah.
And so when you go to those leagues, you shoot your friends first round, and then second round you're shooting with someone you're only shooting against your skill level. And at the end of the night, the top guy in each group wins the same amount of money. So the top guy in the top group, he won $25, and the top guy in the bottom group won $25.
Yep.
And it just took off like wildfire. Like, everybody,
that's awesome.
This is fun. And so it took I don't know, I think a lot of people are intimidated to shoot their first competition or score and go for it.
Right.
And it seemed to take care of it, and people are just, it's going crazy.
I agree, because like this year, last year, South Forks league night, 25, 30 people would show up. 60 to 65 people would show up every Wednesday to shoot. Like, and
they run that all through the winter.
This is all summer long.
Oh,
So
3D.
so
it's a
3D.
summer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different winter leagues, but last year Pocatello did it and had a great turnout with it.
Yeah.
Caden was running that, and he, with his new job, he couldn't do it, and nobody, they couldn't get anybody to step up and take care of it. So Pocatello's died this year, but Blackfoot picked theirs up, and everybody was going there, and it was really good.
And it's everybody has fun.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody's getting left out.
That's what archery should be. It should be just fun, right?
Yeah.
I know that's why I've stuck with it. I don't, going back to your point, my dad was a big archery hunter when I was a kid, and so I picked up on it quickly. And I liked hunting in general. Like, I liked rifle hunting for deer. We did it every year, but I don't know if I'd be sitting in this chair today if it wasn't for archery elk hunting. That's really like where I cut my teeth in the outdoor industry.
So as a novice elk hunter, because South Dakota, I've yet to draw a tag.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna draw one because I live here. I got to go this last year with Jesse. I kind of twisted his arm a little, like, hey, take me and show me the way.
Got a raise.
Here, I tell you what, best guide, oh my goodness. But that, if I would have got to do that as a young person, I'm so bummed out I didn't grow up in Idaho.
Yeah.
Or like someplace where you could elk hunt it, because it's life changing. It is such a fun, exciting, like, there's just no moment of it that you hate.
Yeah.
Maybe the walk in the morning.
Waking up early might not be for everyone, but
Patrick, there was a couple times you didn't get up.
There was twice.
Okay, we're going to jump into some technical questions, though.
Sure.
Out of all the content we've produced over the years, and it's cool to see archery, especially when we get into like specifics about archery. If it's us setting up a bow, if it's talking about, our arrow setups, or if it's just obviously our archery hunts do good, or if it's just us shooting like an attack event, they always do really well. I've heard this for years. Do you guys think archery is still growing as much as it was at one point?
It's more popular now than it's ever been.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Been.
And going back actually to the Olympic thing, I lived in LA for like 3 years. The first 3 years I started Hush, I lived in LA. And I was very blown away. It was like July time, around this time of year, and I was like, I need to get out and get ready for the fall. So I started like Google searching archery ranges around my house, and I lived downtown like Santa Monica.
Oh, wow.
And I was blown away. There were some archery ranges, and I would go to this one archery range that was like literally 1 mile from my house, and it was at like this city park. And it was a really cool setup. Like, it was super safe. It was at a big park, so there's playgrounds, people playing soccer. But then, like, one corner, it was this really nice archery range that was all blocked off, and you could shoot out to 40 yards. And, dude, there was people showing up to it. And what I was blown away by is there was people there shooting hunting bows. And I was like, oh, my gosh, my type of people.
Right.
And so I started talking to these people, and not one of them hunted. But the reason they told me that archery was such a big thing in LA is because of the LA Olympics, like in the 80s or something, came there, and
84.
Yeah, 84, and archery was part of that then, and it really blew the sport up of archery. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that story, but
that's crazy.
Yeah.
When was this?
Dude, this was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Archery's big. There's a lot. I mean, California has a ton of bow hunters.
Yeah.
A ton of bow hunters.
And I don't know. I sent a hunting set. I think we've sent this summer 3 sets of strings to Southern California.
Yeah.
So one of the questions was somebody asked about how often should you replace your bowstrings, and I'm going to prelude this
every
into
year.
You.
Every year.
What Jesse forgot to mention is what else besides sell bows, arrows, set up bows, arrows, help people shoot. What else do you guys do in the back here?
We sell a string or two.
You guys sell a string or two?
We sell a string or two.
What kind of strings are you trying to sell?
So I have Apex Custom bowstrings. Patrick lets me rent a room for free in the back, build strings, and I think he does pretty good on them too, because the shop has helped Apex tenfold. If I didn't have the shop to sell Apex out of it, we'd still be doing good, but it wouldn't be nothing like it is today. But we've grown so much because of that. But so we build bowstrings.
Did you start Apex?
I did. I started Apex. The reason I got into string building is I used to like tie flies, or I was the kind of guy when I was fly fishing. I didn't want to buy flies. I want to tie them, do my own stuff, and it just was the same thing with strings. I wanted to kill an elk with my own string. Don't know why. I just always looked at it, had an interest in it, and I'm like, I think I want to do that. So I was working at the fab shop, so I fabbed me up my own equipment, fabbed up all the equipment, and put it up in my basement. And the first strings I built was my target bows, one of my target bows, and built a string, put it on, and I think I went out and shot 300 with it, like first game with the new strings, and it's all right. And I learned a lot along the way. Like it wasn't the perfect string, and I had some guys that probably just because how much I shot and what I was doing, trusted that I was going to get it right. And I had several people right away like, yeah, build me a set. So I gave away a lot. I didn't charge for a set for a long time, I don't think, but when I had no intentions of selling a string ever. I wanted to build my own string, maybe my family strings, a little side hobby. Be cool to kill an elk with your own strings, or deer, or whatever, harvest with your own strings. And then it just turned into that. Started getting decent at it. Everybody started thinking, hey, these things are working pretty good. Had a lot of help throughout. Ryan Farron's up north. He's way up north there somewhere, but he had Rhino Tough bow strings, and I reached out to him back then, and he gave me 3 years of knowledge, just like that, which was hard to get in the string industry. There's some forums. There's a lot of guys out there willing. There's a lot of guys not willing, because you had to work hard to get all of it, to get the info and learn it. And a lot of people are going to give away something that's priceless that they've learned. And I owe a lot to Ryan for for doing that. And then he'd even ask, "What do you find in here?" So he was using me for guinea pig a little bit too, or ask me what I was finding out, but so many small details he helped me that I would have took me years to figure out. He gave me the heads up, and we just started going. And like around that time, once I really got going on that, I was building a lot of them in my basement. That's when this whole thing happened, when Patrick came to me.
That was our deal. Like Jesse, like to get him and to pay him what he needed to. Because like the one thing I'd say I do different in this industry than some of the other shops is I pay my guys. I don't want him to leave. I do not. Like it would break my heart if he left. Like can't have it happen. So I'm like, you can build your strings out of the shop. We'll make the wage work. As long as the numbers go the right way, which they have. Like hands down, I don't even worry about it. Like a lot of people will be talking to me, and I always like, this is Jesse's shop.
Yeah, that's what you told me the first time I came in here.
Everything that has been done in here, he's done. He remodeled the shop. He just asked, he's like, hey, I'm going to spend a little money, but he has a framing background. We both used to work construction when we were younger. So I was like, you want to do it, do it. My wife came down. She's like, you're never going to believe how nice the shop is. I came down. I was like, oh, my goodness.
Well, I don't think you would ever told. If I ever ask him, what should I do? What would you like? He won't. You've never answered me. Do what you want. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. And and that's been nice. So him, Patrick, back to how well the shop's doing, he allowed me to run with it.
Well,
I did what I want. Anything I wanted, I did. He let me. But first and foremost, back to how full this shop is. That's him. That's him and Tanya. This shop is chock full because of him and Tanya. And because I got a chock full shop, I can run an awesome shop because of that.
Well, and that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Like, to have all this stuff in here is a lot of overhead on your part, right? Like, you don't, get this stuff, and then when you sell
Tanya, I love you.
Send the company a check. Like,
you are the greatest.
You guys are buying
anybody could have. Yes.
All this, and then you're sitting on it until it sells.
Yeah. And you know what? God bless all.
Not to mention paying for the business still while it's going.
Yeah. God bless all the manufacturers that we have. I jumped in both feet. A ton of them have helped me. I have some reps that really look out for me. But Bob Jacobson, that used to own Jake's Archery down in Utah.
Yep.
Him and I, the first year when I bought the shop, him and I met him at the Idaho Open. And everybody, Don Borg, Sid Carlson, they're like, hey, you got to meet, this is the owner of Jake's. And Tom used to buy anything he needed that he didn't have in stock that he needed, he'd buy from Jake's, because they took pride. If you called early enough, it shipped that day, you had it the next day.
Yeah.
Which is and it's so sad that they're not in business anymore. But he gave me a ton of advice, and one of the things that he said he hated when he started was saying, I don't have it, but I can order it for you.
Yeah.
And that is kind of stuck with me. And then I really trust, Jesse and Brian that they know what each shop needs, because like the dynamic from IF to Pocatello is different. They're just a little bit different.
Really?
Yeah,
Falls back
even
to
though
what
they're
I use
40 miles away.
Well, it falls back to what I have. Like, me and Patrick are two different spectrums of the archery world. And
Yeah.
what he likes to hunt with and what he uses and has confidence in isn't the same as mine. So there's things in here that, like, they sell like hotcakes down there, and I don't sell them because I don't use them and I don't remember or know how to push them because I don't have that. And everything that's on my bow, you know, it's easy for me to fall back and say, well, I like this. And people, 90% of our customers, that they'll, you know, if I say I'm using it, all right, I'll take one.
Well, that's that trust. Going back to the trust, man. Like, they walk in the door, meet you, and talk archery for a few minutes. They know immediately, like, you know what you're talking about, and so they'll automatically put their trust in you, which is good, man. As somebody running a bow shop and being the bow tech, like, that's what you want.
Right.
That's what you're shooting for.
And we try and tell them, like, if it's in the shop, we back it, and I would shoot it.
Yeah.
And back to what I was kind of like telling you earlier, when it comes to what's on my bow, I'll shoot anything in the shop because there's nothing we sell that I don't believe in.
Yeah.
But it falls back to what reps are taking care of me. It's so good. If I got reps that are saying, hey, please shoot, will you shoot this, or I'll get you some of this, or they're, you know, the ones that you know, when it comes down to arrows, rest, at least everything there, it reflects on the reps taking care of me. So I try and, you know, give that back to them. And
and they want your feedback.
Yeah.
They really do. Like,
They value your opinion, obviously.
There's you know, like Easton, Victory, Black. Everybody makes a good arrow, but like, we shoot them all because I tell the guys we kind of have to.
It's kind of easier. It's kind of easier not to have to. Everything's so good. It's easier. It's a good way to pick what I'm going to shoot. Like, well, this rep was doing this for me, so I'm going to take that because that just helps the decision because it's all good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I laugh because Jesse and Brian, they kind of have carte blanche, like whatever they.
Yeah.
They have a whole. Well, what bow should I shoot? I'll shoot that one.
When you made the comment earlier at Black Hills, you said, you know, I work for free, I got stuff for free. Yeah. I work and get paid and get stuff for free.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tanya.
Yeah. Delete that.
Cut that out.
Yeah.
But I resell everything.
Yeah.
If there's some.
Yeah.
I try and pay. You know, Patrick. I try and pay for costs on stuff that's not reusable, returnable. But everything I kind of use it, sell it for cost, and just
that's another thing that, you know, I've been in a lot of shops and worked with a lot of people, and you know, some of the shop owners they're making money off their employees. I'm like, like, that's the last person I want to make money off of, because they have the worse addiction than I do.
For sure.
My wife let me buy an archery shop because she was tired of paying full bow for everything. She's like, this has got to stop.
Okay, well, I'm going to tear apart my bow tonight. The kid's been waiting for a bent cam bow. It's going to take a bent cam, same bow I shoot. I'm giving him my bow just so I got other choices. If I can't get it in time, he doesn't. I'm going to give the kid my bow because it's the same one as he bought a used and wasn't quite up to par. So I'll give him that. I'll fix that one later for myself, pick something else up. So
somebody walks into the shop tomorrow. They listen to this podcast. We're an archery hunter. They walk in the shop tomorrow because of this podcast. You're welcome. And they tell you, I want to be an archery hunter. I want to start shooting a bow. What are this is a question I got on Instagram. What are something to understand or to look for when you're purchasing your first very own bow?
So when we get that daily.
Yeah.
Like, not
really?
I mean, almost daily new people, whether it's youth, grown, teenagers, women. We probably sell as many beginner bows, new bows than any. And the first thing is you'll have the guys that they know if they buy budget, they're going to be in next year in a couple months buying brand new or buying flagship.
Yeah.
So that's my first thing. I said that what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around real quick and I'm going to show you what we have and what it costs. And okay, so I go around and give them real quick what I think's going to fit them, and then I let them know what it costs. And we get done. I say, so what's your budget? Where's this going to fit? I can make any one of these work for you, and I'll explain to them. You know, the more money you spend, you know, the better setup you're going to get. But if your budget is low, we will make you a nice setup for that budget. We can do that. So we don't pressure anybody. If someone wants to come in, just get a feel for it. We have really good, you know, it's all good. Like to the point people come looking for a used bow. We have a hard time selling 8-9-year-old used bow because they're such good brand new bows for almost the same price.
We took 4 flagship bows in on trade this last week. We only have one of them left.
No kidding.
Yeah, those are the bows that sell. Flagship 2-3-year-old bows come and go.
VXRs, yeah.
Flagship bows,
Venoms.
few years old, getting a little bit of a break there off the bottom line.
Maybe some last year. We'll sell a lot of last year's stuff. The next year early guys come in just looking for that. But no, back to that. That's what I do when they come in. I'll give them a quick rundown of what kind of price they're at, because usually they don't know. They don't know if it's going to be, if a bow costs $100 or if a bow costs $1,000. They don't know. Usually sticker shock to some of them when you tell them. But yes, we start there and ask, do you want to stay in a budget? Do you want to get something that's kind of mid-range? Or you want to go all out because you are the guy that knows if he gets a budget bow or mid-range bow, he's going to immediately end up wanting to upgrade.
Yeah.
And he might do that. Most guys will, I'll start here and they'll end up there. That's
really
how we
lucky
do it.
Nowadays that our entry-level equipment from all the manufacturers, whether it's Hoyt or Matthews, which would be the Mission line, Elite, PSC, they all have an entry-level bow that the three of us could all set up an entry-level bow, go to the elk woods and kill them.
Kill an elk for sure.
There's no shame in your game. If that's your budget, we're gonna set it up and dial you in, and you're gonna be able to go kill stuff.
Chris B took one out just to prove it on tack. Well, last week he was in Pennsylvania, wherever he was. He took a Mission hammer out, I think, and shot a whole tag with it, and that's one of them. Like, it's awesome.
So budget number one, you understand their budget. What's number two? Like, if they tell you, I've got, endless money. I'm brand new to this. I've got, say I've got $1,500 just to spend on the bow so I can buy any bow. What's the next step?
Probably going to make the best setup for the money. If they got a little money like that, then then it's going to be a two. Then the next question for me, I don't know if Patrick does, for me is, okay, let's put a little more money in your bow today, and we'll put a cheap package on it. Let's get you a good bow today. The package is going to work. The cheaper sight, the cheaper, it's all going to do its job, but you're going to have a really nice bow, and then you can slowly upgrade.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do, and then give them the choice to do that, or buy a midline bow, hit the $700 mark on a bow, and put a little bit nicer accessories on it, and then let them go from there. And they'll go 50-50. Some guys just, I don't think I'm going to upgrade. I think that bow's enough, so we'll go that route. And then some guys like, that makes sense. Let's get a good bow. I'll skimp a little on my quiver and maybe, my rest or something. They'll skimp a little so they can get that better bow, and then next year they'll upgrade.
Yeah, because when we do it, a lot of times we'll ask how much research they've done, because nobody's ever just woke up in the morning and decided I want to be a bow hunter.
Yeah,
they've either family, friends, maybe got lucky, watched one of your guys' videos and thought that looks like
fun. You hit on the nail head. That is the first thing. Have you done research? Is there something you already want to look at?
Yeah.
Then we start there.
Yeah, and it is like, everybody's financial situation's different, so it is fun when somebody has a budget and we can trick it out. They might have, I got to be under 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna be right at $999.99 with tax. That's it. And then we set them up really nice, and they walk out. And what's cool is we're getting a lot of these young guys are going out getting their first deer. Shoot a doe, or they get lucky and get a nice little buck, and they're out in the elk woods, and everybody knows that's not as easy as you guys
shoot
make
a
it
350
look.
bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they come in.
Is that a story?
You're like,
where was that?
Yeah. Could you drop that pin for me? I need to go check that out. But it is, and like archery's so fun for us in that aspect, because like you were talking earlier when you said you walk into a shop and the right guy is there. So like Brian, Jesse, we got a guy that works for us part-time, Tim, that you've met, who loves archery. He's like an encyclopedia.
Very knowledgeable for sure.
He's a Hoyt guru. So like that's his deal, And which I like is Brian kind of floats between whatever bow that one looks good, and he'll shoot. Jesse's, like you said, he'll shoot anything but PSE. I've been with Matthews forever. So we kind of cover everything. We brought a lead in. And one of the big reasons we brought them in is like their entry-level stuff is so good and so adjustable, and it has that flagship look and feel to it without spending that money. PSE does a good job. The Mission line with Matthews has been great, but we have which I think is, you touched on, We just have everything.
Yeah.
So, like, every grip on every bow in here is different. You're going to pick one up, and it's just going to fit in your hand, and you're going to shoot it, and you're going to be like, I really like this one. And it might be the $9.99, like entry-level bow that's going to go out and do just as good a job.
Yeah, and that guy, that's what'll end up. The guy that comes in and doesn't know, we'll have 4 bows up there hung up, and he wants to know which one. I'm like, I can't tell you. You have to shoot them.
Yeah.
And just keep shooting them until one starts, and it will. If they shoot them
One
long enough,
jumps out
one
to
will all of a sudden.
Well,
be
I
the
mean,
one.
for us, we get asked that a lot. And, what bow would you recommend? What gun would you recommend? And, obviously Hoyt's been awesome to us. We love Hoyt. And I shoot Hoyt very well. But I would say come in, understand a budget first. Like what can you spend? What are you willing to spend? Do some research on your own. Maybe there is a company that jumps out to you more than another. But at the end of the day, go in and shoot. Go to a shop like Archery Idaho that offers a lot of different brands and shoot a bunch of different ones and see which one jumps out to you. And then if it's a good shop, they can develop that bow to fit you and to fit your budget perfectly, that you can go out and shoot targets if that's what you're after, or you can go out in the elk woods and shoot a bull if you're after that. And so that's what's great about, I would say, the industry now is, dude, there's so much to choose from that you can.
That's good.
That's good. That you can go out and have faith in and have trust in to go out and accomplish your goals. If that's shooting a tack event or going out and shooting a bull elk.
All the bow manufacturers are operating on a high level. They all make a great product. Like when we were kids, there was always one.
We never push. If someone comes in, we don't like. If someone comes in and says, "I want to look at your Hoyts today," I will not bring up another bow brand. Like we're going to go through all them Hoyts until they say, well, maybe I want to shoot one of these too. And then we do. So we'll never, if someone comes in, if they come in, they want a Matthews or they want a Hoyt, I don't even bring up another bow. We just start shooting, find the bow they want and go. I never bring up the other one because we got to sell them all.
Yeah. I always say buy a Matthews.
I know, but.
And you're usually wrong, so I mean.
But if I keep talking about PSEs, we'll run out.
Yeah,
we're just all flexing here. Next technical question. Here's one that could go on for a long time, but short answers here. We're running out of time.
Okay.
Do you see? This is an in-depth question. This comes from Squires Outside. Do you see a parachute effect at distance with a helical vane setup? So explain a parachute effect first.
So a parachute effect is when once your arrow starts slowing down and losing kinetic energy, that vane. I think if you get a lot of it on there, and I proved this over building sight tapes and seeing it far enough out, it does create a parachute effect. Slow your arrow down and out of the sky it comes. But at the same time, also that's happening about the time where, for me, it's up past my shot anyway. So I could fletch mine with a heel because I'm going to keep 50, 16 ends my ethical shot. If I'm going to go much more than that, a heavy helical might not be. If you're the guy that's going out in some country and you think you can shoot well enough and you're going to throw 70, 90-yard bombs, probably don't want to. I wouldn't put that helical on there.
Yeah.
But if you're short range, like heavy, short range, maybe get control of a broadhead a little bit quicker inside that 40 yards. Big helical, sure. Yeah.
Well, so on that with the broadhead, they've proven and disproven and proven and disproven it over and over again. If you have a big fixed blade, you're shooting like an iron will with a heavy helical, and you think you can shoot 100 yards at something, it's losing so much energy because literally you're busting air with the broadhead, plus you're trying to spin it as fast as you can, plus the weight of the arrow.
Heavy helical.
The best way to look at it is energy. It takes energy to spin that arrow, and the energy you're grabbing that air to the energy you're losing is going into that spin because it's grabbing the air to turn the arrow.
We get the heavy helical when you're trying to steer a big fixed blade. Like I totally get it. So if your ethical shot distance on a mature bull, for instance, is 50 yards, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's when you start pushing those out there. If you're shooting a 600 plus grain arrow with that heavy helical and a big fixed blade, you're going to notice it. Your sight tape, just like Jesse said, when you're building sight tapes, you're going to be longer.
Or you look at the other spectrum. There's a huge spectrum because we got, like, my wife shoots 45 pounds. I would never put a helical on. I would never put anything hard on that because she doesn't need it right away because her shot's going to be 30 and in on an elk. So she's shot a few elk, and we make sure it's 30 and in, and I'm not going to put a taking any more energy out of her arrow. You know, I'm gonna let it fly.
Now those guys shooting 75 pounds, 31 and a half inches.
The more kinetic you have, the
distance and you might not see it. Where the guys might argue when they watch this, be like, I don't see it. Well, it depends on your setup.
Yeah.
You know, Lindsay at 45 pounds is going to see it.
So if you guys don't know, a helical is the angle that you set your fletching on your arrow.
Yeah.
So like we're talking about a heavy helical. So if you look at the
When
fletching,
it looks like a boat prop.
Yeah, it looks like
it
rolling around the arrow shaft.
So yours that we just fletched in there, that's a 4 degree. That's on the. That's just right. Like it's not straight. You can look at it, and because we use a helical
and
clamp,
just see there's enough.
You can see there's just enough. You don't have to look hard. You can see it, but it's not overwhelming.
No.
Next technical question, which we can probably talk. Like all questions in archery, to me, it's just kind of like the Ford, Dodge, Ram, whatever.
There's so many people out there. You can find 1,000 people to prove there is no parachute, and 1,000 to prove that there is. But like, if you're just going to be honest with your ethical killing distance, then that changes everything.
I'll tell you my opinion over what I've personally found, and if someone wants to argue, I'm going to argue. Like you're right too. Like whatever gives you confidence.
An important thing to go into the mindset of anything really in life, but especially archery, is like you can listen to the professionals talk about it as much as you want. You can read articles about it and get a good grasp on like the science behind it. But at the end of the day, I think most people just need to go out and figure out what works best for them, because everyone's different. Everyone's going to be shooting a different length, a different arrow.
You can set those arrows up. Like I'm trying to get. I have an Easton display at my house that has a ton of shafts in, and I want to do every length from 31 and a half down, just so I could do it with the helical and the weights and all that, because you're going to set up sight tapes to fit those arrows that are going to be so different.
Oh yeah.
And that's where people, it might not be parachuting, let's say, but because of your poundage and your draw length and the weight of the arrow, you're just losing more energy faster than that lighter arrow with a less helical. So you might say, it was parachuting, and actually no, it's just the energy's dissipating faster because of that heavier arrow and your lighter poundage, your shorter draw. There's just so much to it. It's not like we're all drawing the same draw length and the same poundage.
Exactly.
Someone with novice archers, or guys that don't shoot enough to actually figure it out on their own, they went out, they had a good day. They made a change. Maybe they put a helical on, and they went out and they were just shooting good that night. They were shooting good that night. They instantly built a confidence in that helical, and that's what they're going to stick with, and that's what we'll do for them.
That's good, right? If they have the confidence in their setup. So here's the next technical question. This will be the last one because we're about out of time. Fixed blade or mechanical? And that's a pretty important question now here in Idaho. This is the second year that it's allowed? Mechanicals are allowed in Idaho?
I'll let you go first, Patrick.
Okay, so I come from a place where you could use them, so when I started, I was shooting a fixed blade. And then, Rage in the Cage, that was the big deal. So you tried them. My brother, who's absolutely a killer, he's lost two animals in his lifetime. Both were with mechanical. He won't shoot them.
Yeah.
So I looked at it this way. I'm like, well, I'll just see, my own. Every year, I have a fixed blade in my quiver, and I have mechanicals.
Yeah.
So it's just depending on the situation, because like a lot of times if you think I'm going to be able to get in close, an Annihilator broadhead at 30 yards through a whitetail, they don't stand a chance.
Yep.
It just punches a hole in them. This year I was fortunate enough to harvest an elk with a mechanical 58 yards through the pump station. It didn't go 20 yards, and the blood trail was amazing. So they both worked. I get some of the arguments that people from Idaho, because for years and years and years mechanicals were crap.
Yeah,
they're no longer that anymore.
Yeah,
there are better ones. You got your rear deploying. You got there's better designs out there. Like Sever makes an incredible mechanical that it's money. Yep. It was the original Ulmer Edge.
Ulmer head.
Yeah. So for me, I've had luck with both of them. I've killed whitetail with mechanicals. I've killed one elk with mechanical, but I've killed a lot of other things with fixed. If you tune and you do your due diligence, I think both of them are equally lethal. So that's why I said both. Like I'll always have a fixed in. And it'll just depend on what I got coming.
So the theory behind it is, from what I understand, a mechanical broadhead should fly better than a fixed blade.
Because you don't have, it's like fletching the front of your arrow.
Yeah.
With a fixed blade.
And so a mechanical should, in theory, fly better. And it should, if you get the right one, have a larger cutting diameter.
Yes.
Without taking anything away, because it's inside the arrow until it hits.
Well, right. And that's the thing. Like, it does take a lot of the energy out of the arrow on contact to deploy that. So that's why they always say, like you would never have Lindsay shoot a mechanical.
Never. No.
Yeah.
Because she's only shooting 45 pounds.
When guys come in right now with me on those, I don't recommend, because we're new to it. And again, I do everything on my own experience. I hear everything, but I'm going off my own. So when guys come in now, I tell them I don't recommend expandables yet, but I will tell them that over last year and starting so far this year, I've been running mechanicals, trying to create my own opinion, and so far so good. Good. We're 4 for 4, 3 for 3. That's right. Annihilator was the first one last year, but so far so good. And it was 3 different heads, and
Carter
shot placement is everything. Carter. So it wasn't just me. So we had, out of this year, my son went 3 for 3 with the Grim Reapers last year. Penetrated way further than I would have expected.
Right. Especially on the one quartering shot, like that was amazing.
Right on.
Yeah, he done that. The Sever we saw, and the B3's making some right now. That's where I'm like, I'll keep it on all this year, because what I'm seeing with it, big hole right now. Right. Complete pasture on a couple of critters so far. So we'll go from there. Right now, I'm liking them, but I'm not going to recommend them yet.
Yeah,
you're not going to not recommend them. You're just like opinion right now.
No, I don't want anybody to come back.
You don't have enough.
I don't. I don't have the confidence to have someone come back mad at me because I told them to take
a And I never do that anyway. I'm like,
and I love not having to broadhead too.
Yeah. I would say
check them and go.
Yeah,
I've seen I've been with people. I don't think I have any personal experience with losing an animal to mechanical.
Are you shooting a mechanical?
No,
you're fixed.
I'm fixed old school fixed because
I'm cool with that.
I do think there's purpose for both. I know guys that will carry one mechanical in their quiver for the right reason or the right scenario, and I think the right scenario is a perfectly broadside animal where you're not shooting at an angle.
Yep.
I think, because if you have the perfect shot and you make the right shot, you want the biggest hole possible in that animal, right? And mechanical offers that. But for me, I want the one head that I can not have to have the perfect shot and still really have a lot of confidence in it. So for me, I've always been a fixed blade guy, but I can definitely see that people have had really good experiences with the mechanical, and it makes sense to me.
For sure. If you look at two of my favorite fixed blades, the Annihilator guys are local. They're, in Idaho. It's made out of tool steel. It punches a hole.
Yeah.
It's got 3 sharp blades, punches a hole. But Grim Reaper with their 4-blade Hades Pro, that thing flies like a field point. Very little tuning on that.
Yeah.
At my setup, I'm 30 inches, 70 pounds, 450, almost 460 grain arrow. So my flight is at 296 feet per second. So that's where you get kind of wonky with fixed blades. But that Hades Pro 4-blade, for whatever reason, and I'm not an engineer, out of my bow shoots just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that's where I was with Kudu's for so long.
Oh yeah, Kudu's another one.
Kudu's, going to try the mechanicals hasn't been easy because with
You've
my
killed
family,
a lot of stuff
between me, my wife, my boys, I think we're 23 big game hits and 21 harvests. And I think the 2 problems were my problem. I think, we're just so even across the board with the Kudu's treated us so well that, the mechanicals, but we're working in a bow shop, I got to know.
Here's something that's funny, though, is we were talking about it. Based on your experience with them, his, mine, if you guys were hanging out in the shop with us all the time and people would ask, what's your go-to broadhead? it's amazing when they know your success rate, or they see the pictures on the wall, they know what we do. They're instant like, well, I'm just going to shoot what you shoot.
Yeah,
because you're having good luck with it. My draw length is similar, my poundage or my speed, whatever. But it's amazing. Like Jesse, Brian, we all, and Tim, everybody, we shoot a lot. Like I have a whole cubby of broadheads that I hand to customers and say, take them out to the range to your target. Try them all. Yeah. Whichever one flies best out of your bow or is the easiest to tune, then buy that one. Don't go spend $56 to come back and say, can I trade these for something that works?
It didn't work great.
I just hope the B3s work good for everybody, because same thing. I don't recommend them. Well, what do you shoot? These. I'll take a pack.
Yeah.
I hope they work.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
100%.
I mean, if you guys were to take anything away from this podcast, hopefully you take away a lot, because these two have just dropped a whole bunch of knowledge on you. But I think at the end of the day, personal opinions need to be formed, I think, from personal experiences. Right. I think you should find a bow shop that is set up to put you in the very best position to go and have success, which that's what these guys do. Wild Arrow down in Utah, we've used those guys for years. They've done a phenomenal job.
Well, you just got to come see us.
Yeah, but find a shop that you trust, that you believe in. They know a little more than you do. Get their opinions, get their theories on things, but go and try things yourself as well and figure out what works for you, because everyone's a little bit different. Everyone has a little bit different setup, and I think that's the most important thing is, Jesse can tell you everything that he believes and knows, but until you go and try it for yourself, you're not going to know for sure. And so I think that we'll leave that as a closing remark. But I just want to tell you guys how grateful and how relieving it is to know that there's a shop literally 7 minutes. I've timed it 7 minutes from my house. And because Wild Arrow has set my bows up for the last 6 years, and they do a fantastic job. It's just a little longer drive for me, 2.5 hours. So to know that you guys are here 7 minutes away, that I can come bounce some ideas off you guys, you set my bow up like you did this year, it's awesome. If you guys live close by, come and check these guys out. They have shops here in Pocatello and in Idaho Falls. So if you live in God's country, they got us covered.
Hey, we got you.
I did offer him a set of keys in case he needed a place to hide out and shoot bows the other day.
I might just be in here tuning my own bow tomorrow. We don't know yet.
we appreciate it, because like what we're trying to do here, build the community and do this. Like I would tell everybody, come see us, because there's some stuff that we have customers that have tried and they know that works that they haven't got in to tell us yet. Because there's a lot of times, and we know there's a lot of killers in this country that harvest animals every year, and I would just assume like to know what their setup is, because there's somebody out there that knows them and trusts them. And when I say, well, Ryan Pimentel uses X, Y, and Z, they're like, oh, I know Ryan. He's killed, some giant bulls. Well, let's try that, because I'm similar. Like it's not a perfect way to do it, but like everybody's opinion and everybody's experience does matter to us. For sure.
Guys, I just want to tell you thanks again for watching the podcast. We are trying to stay consistent with these things. We're doing a fairly good job, but we love your guys' feedback. Anybody you guys want us to see bring onto the podcast, any topics you guys want us to cover, let us know down below, and we will get them covered. Fall is among us. It's here. And so
antelope season.
Antelope season starts here in like T-minus 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of fun things coming up, guys. We can't wait to showcase this season for you guys at home, and hopefully we have a bunch of archery kills this year. That's the plan. Anyways, guys, thanks always for the support. We'll see you guys next time.
Awesome.